You ever wonder why some older men seem to have a magnetic pull on women while others fade into the background unnoticed? It's not about looks. It's not about money. It's about language. Two words that older men use that make women feel drawn, intrigued, almost helplessly curious. And most men have no idea they exist. Imagine this. A woman walks into a room scanning for comfort, confidence, safety, curiosity, and dominance. The subtle, almost invisible traits that trigger attraction at a deep, almost instinctual level. You might think you need to impress her with a flashy car, designer clothes, or a witty line you read on the internet. But that's superficial. What really breaks through, what really makes her pause and notice are words, not paragraphs, not long speeches, but two words, casually slipped into conversation that signal wisdom, calm authority, and emotional stability. These two words carry the weight of experience. They hint at a life that has seen storms and survived them. They tell her that you're not desperate, that you've lived, failed, and grown stronger. And here's the kicker. She doesn't even consciously register them at first. Her brain reacts before she realizes why. Her mind whispers, I want to know this man. I want to feel safe. I want to feel understood. I want to feel a spark I didn't even know existed. Most men think attraction is about energy, excitement, or being fun. But women, especially in their late 20s and beyond, are scanning for stability wrapped in subtle power. These two words do exactly that. They signal control without arrogance, experience without condescension, and mystery without pretension. When used correctly, they hit a woman's psychological buttons in ways that casual dating advice never explains. Now, don't get me wrong. These words aren't a magic spell you say to every woman like a mantra. They aren't pickup lines. They aren't tricks. They are anchors, indicators of a man who knows himself, has survived life's challenges, and communicates that he can handle complexity without losing his calm. The women who feel the effect aren't consciously thinking about it. They just notice an effortless authority, a kind of invisible magnetism that makes them want to lean in. Here's why most men never get this. They rely on what's visible, their jawline, their paycheck, their jokes. And while those things can attract temporarily, they don't create lasting intrigue or emotional tension. These two words bypass that shallow level and speak directly to her emotional core. They speak to the parts of the female mind that subconsciously assess reliability, competence, and emotional depth. All the things women want but rarely articulate. Think of it like this. In the animal world, subtle signals matter more than overt displays. A lion doesn't roar at every passing gazelle. It moves with confidence, authority, and precision. The ones that survive don't need to announce their power. It's understood. Women respond the same way. They don't need a man to advertise himself. They respond to subtle cues that say, I've been through life. I understand. I can protect. I can lead. I can be calm when chaos comes. And that's exactly why older men who understand this pull women in naturally. They aren't trying to impress. They are presenting themselves authentically with words that reflect confidence, experience, and emotional depth. These two words are part of that language. They act like a psychological key, unlocking curiosity and attraction almost automatically. If you've ever felt overlooked or wondered why younger guys seem to have an easier time attracting attention, this is the missing piece. It isn't about trying harder or performing better. It's about understanding the emotional triggers women respond to and speaking to them subtly with precision. This isn't taught in dating blogs or cheesy YouTube tutorials. It's the kind of insight most men stumble into by accident or never at all. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what these two words are, how to use them naturally, and why they work so powerfully on women, even if you've struggled for years with dating. You'll understand why older men who seem almost invisible at first glance suddenly command attention, respect, and desire without trying. And here's the first thing to notice right now. Every word you speak carries weight. Every phrase you use can either attract subconsciously or repel instantly. The difference is subtle, but once you see it, nothing about your interactions with women will feel the same again. Here's the truth most men will never admit. Women don't fall for the man who talks the loudest, brags the most, or tries the hardest. They fall for the man who speaks the right words at the right moment, who communicates something deeper than surface level charm. And that's exactly where these two words come in. They act like a mental anchor, a subtle signal of experience, authority, and emotional intelligence that a woman feels before she can even name it. Imagine you're in a conversation with a woman you want to intrigue. Most men panic. They over-explain themselves, joke awkwardly, or try to fill the silence with nervous energy. Women pick up on that instantly. It's draining, unappealing, and forgettable. But when an older man drops these two words naturally, effortlessly, she pauses. Her mind senses a shift. Suddenly, the conversation feels different. The atmosphere changes. She feels tension, curiosity, and subtle respect all at once. These words aren't just about sounding confident. They tap directly into her subconscious filters for safety, intelligence, and mystery. Women scan for men who can handle themselves in uncertainty, who can provide emotional stability without being boring, who can be intriguing without trying to impress. And that's exactly what these two words communicate. They are proof that you're a man who understands life, who doesn't chase validation, who has depth she can't ignore. Here's the key. It's not the words alone, it's the way they're delivered. Calm, deliberate, and without desperation. You don't raise your voice. You don't lean in too much. You simply state them as if they are obvious facts about the world, and her brain responds. It recognizes authority. It recognizes value. It recognizes someone who has been tested and come out stronger. Think of it like this. Every man can say, I'm experienced or I've seen a lot, but most men overcompensate. Women feel it immediately. It reeks of insecurity, not confidence. These two words bypass all of that. They're subtle, almost invisible, and yet they signal everything at once. They suggest mastery of life's challenges without needing to brag. They imply emotional intelligence, calmness, and a quiet strength that younger men or inexperienced men simply cannot replicate. Here's what really makes them powerful. They trigger curiosity. Women naturally want to know more about someone who hints at hidden depths. These two words are like a door slightly ajar. They don't tell her everything, just enough to make her want to step inside, explore, and connect emotionally. She will wonder, who is this man? What does he know that I don't? How does he carry himself so effortlessly? And that curiosity, that subtle mental tension, is what fuels attraction more than looks, money, or status. Older men who master this understand the unspoken dynamics of female psychology. They know that attraction isn't just about the obvious signals, it's about emotional resonance, subtle cues, and mental framing. Women respond to depth, calm authority, and experience. They respond to men who can express these qualities through words, tone, and presence. And once you start using these two words in the right way, you'll notice women reacting differently. They lean in, they ask questions, they remember your presence long after you leave the room. But here's the secret no one tells you. These words are not a one-time trick. They are part of a broader strategy of presence. They work because they reflect an inner state of mastery, self-respect, and calm authority. If your life doesn't align with that energy, the words will ring hollow. But if you embody that state, these words become a signal flare, instantly recognizable to women who are unconsciously scanning for depth and stability. And this is why so many older men suddenly become magnetic to women after decades of feeling invisible. It's not a transformation of appearance. It's a transformation of communication and psychological positioning. They learn to speak in a way that resonates with a woman's core desires: security, intrigue, and emotional resonance. These two words are just the tip of the iceberg, but they are the first step to commanding attention without chasing it, to creating desire without manipulation, and to finally having women notice you in a way they never have before. Pay attention to your next conversation. Notice how subtle changes in language, tone, and timing affect her attention. These two words aren't magic. They're a reflection of mastery. And mastery, once recognized by a woman, is irresistible. Let's get practical. Theory is useless unless you see it in action. Imagine a casual conversation at a coffee shop, a networking event, or even a quiet moment at a bar. Most men talk too much. They over-explain, try to impress, or make the interaction about themselves. Women notice this instantly. It's exhausting, predictable, and forgettable. But the older man who knows these two words, he moves differently, he speaks differently, and she notices even before she realizes why. Picture this. She's talking about her day, casually mentioning a problem or an experience that left her frustrated or intrigued. Most men would respond with advice, a joke, or a story about themselves. That's the trap. It signals that you're reactive, seeking validation, or desperate to be liked. But the man who understands the power of these two words, he pauses, he listens, then, almost effortlessly, he drops them into the conversation. The magic happens in that pause. Women are highly sensitive to timing, tone, and presence. When you speak with calm authority, they subconsciously register stability. They sense that you're not chasing approval. You are grounded. These two words become a psychological anchor. They signal that you've lived, you've learned, and you understand the deeper rhythms of life. Her brain reacts before her heart admits it. She's intrigued. She leans in. She wants to hear more. Here's a scenario many older men experience but rarely notice. She's describing a challenge, maybe a conflict at work, a family issue, or a personal fear. Most men respond with quick fixes or emotional validation. That's not what draws women. It's not what creates desire. The two words, they communicate mastery without over-explaining. They suggest that you've faced similar situations, that you know complexity, and that you remain composed under pressure. She feels respect, curiosity, and a subtle spark of attraction, all without a word of ego or bragging. This works because women are wired to scan for emotional depth and stability. They unconsciously evaluate whether a man can handle the highs and lows of life without losing control, without becoming needy, and without resorting to superficial charm. These two words act as a quiet signal that you've passed that test. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to overplay it. You simply embody it through language and presence. Now let's talk about the psychological mechanism behind it. Women's attraction isn't purely visual, it's emotional and mental. They respond to signals that communicate competence, calm, and reliability. The two words exploit a subtle cognitive shortcut. They bypass surface-level reasoning and trigger a gut-level recognition of value. She doesn't analyze it consciously at first. She just feels it. Curiosity, intrigue, and desire spike automatically. That's why older men using these words can suddenly command attention from women decades younger or seemingly out of reach. Here's the real kicker. These words create a sense of challenge without hostility. Women love mystery. They love depth. They love men who make them feel curious and alive without trying to dominate or control. These two words strike that balance perfectly. They are not aggressive. They are not manipulative. They are markers of authenticity, confidence, and subtle psychological authority. Think about your next conversation. Notice how you react when a woman shares something vulnerable, exciting, or emotional. The typical response is to overreact, over-explain, or underplay. Instead, lean into the pause, choose your moment, and let these two words emerge naturally. Watch her posture, tone, and eye contact shift. Observe her curiosity spike. Listen to how she asks more questions, leans in, or subtly mirrors your energy. These are the cues that your words are hitting at the subconscious level. Here's the most important point. This is not about memorizing scripts or using gimmicks. It's about internalizing the mindset these two words represent. Calm authority, life experience, emotional resilience. Once you embody that, the words flow naturally. Women notice instantly, and once they notice, attraction follows almost automatically. Older men who master this aren't just noticed, they become unforgettable. The kind of presence that lingers in her mind long after the conversation ends. That spark, that subtle pull, is the power of words combined with psychological mastery. And when you use them correctly, you hold a quiet, magnetic authority that almost no younger man can replicate. Now that you understand the power of these two words, it's time to see how they fit into your everyday interactions. The truth is, attraction isn't a single moment. It's a pattern of subtle signals woven into conversation, body language, and energy. These two words are your anchor, but they work best when your entire presence supports them. You don't need to perform, you don't need to impress, you need to embody calm authority and psychological depth in everything you do. Start by noticing your language. Every conversation you have is a reflection of your mindset. Most men speak reactively. They fill silence with unnecessary explanations, jokes, or validation. Women unconsciously scan for energy that feels stable, confident, and deep. The two words act as a lens through which she interprets everything else you say. When dropped naturally, they elevate your presence instantly. She feels curiosity, intrigue, and a subtle respect that's impossible to manufacture with superficial charm. Here's the key. Timing and context matter more than repetition. You don't announce these words like a slogan, you weave them seamlessly into conversation in moments where they resonate emotionally. For example, she might share a story about her frustrations, her dreams, or her fears. Most men would either overreact or jump in with advice. You pause, internalize, and then speak calmly. The two words communicate that you've lived, you understand, and you are grounded. It's subtle, but it hits her subconscious hard. Another critical point, avoid desperation or overuse. Words carry power only when backed by authenticity. If you force them, overthink them, or use them as a trick, women sense it immediately. That pull disappears. Instead, focus on internal mastery, your life experience, your confidence, your calm presence. The words will emerge naturally, and the effect will be magnetic. Women are drawn not to what you say, but to who you are beneath the words. Practice is everything. Start with low-pressure interactions. Friends, colleagues, casual conversations. Notice how different phrasing, pauses, and tone affect the emotional response of those around you. Pay attention to subtle shifts. Eye contact, posture, vocal tone, energy. These are the indicators that your words are resonating subconsciously. Over time, the effect compounds. Women notice, they remember, they lean in, ask more questions, and feel a pull they can't quite explain. Here's the profound truth. Women are hardwired to respond to emotional depth and subtle authority. Looks, money, or humor are secondary if you lack this foundation. Older men who master these two words consistently command attention because they reflect a life fully lived, emotional intelligence, and calm resilience. She feels safe, intrigued, and subtly challenged all at once. That is magnetic. That is unforgettable. That is the difference between being invisible and being irresistible. Finally, the way to make this permanent is to align your words with your lifestyle. Read, travel, experience, grow, and build resilience. The two words are not a shortcut. They are a mirror of the state you cultivate internally. Women are sensitive detectors. They can sense authenticity, insecurity, and depth instantly. When you embody mastery, these words act like a key, unlocking interest, curiosity, and attraction that feels effortless and natural. By now, you should see the pattern. It's not about chasing or performing. It's about presence, timing, and subtle communication. The two words are the spark, but your life is the fire. Use them correctly, and women will notice in ways you didn't think possible. Miss the timing or authenticity, and the moment passes. Attention, attraction, and desire live in subtlety, not noise. Now here's a question for you. A simple equation to test how well you've internalized this concept. If your presence equals calm authority and your words reflect experience, what is the sum that triggers curiosity and attraction in her subconscious? Comment your answer below. If you found this insight valuable, like this video, subscribe for more hidden truths of female psychology, and share it with a friend who needs to hear this. Remember, mastery isn't taught, it's discovered, step by step, word by word.